Hi folks, this is Marty Morales, founder of the Morales Method. It's July 30th, 2020, and I want to give you a summary of a Zoom meeting we had yesterday regarding the state of licensing for structural integration practitioners in California. In the next hour, you will get the latest on licensing for SI practitioners for the state of California, and we will talk about why licensing is so important for us, especially now. You will also get filled in on who the key players are behind this effort. In addition, you will hear from people on the front line in the state of Oregon and what they are doing to pursue licensing. Finally, you will hear about what you can do to help this effort move along. So sit back and for the next hour, enjoy while we update you on this effort. Thanks for watching, folks, and take care. All right. Well, first of all, good morning. Thanks, you guys, for joining. We thought we'd put this meeting together just to kind of inform and educate and spread the word. So thank you for joining, and good to see you all, and hope you and yours are doing well and healthy and safe. So I won't take too much of the time here because the star of the show is here and waiting. But I do want to introduce Christine Doo here. I've been communicating and talking with Christine over the past several months as she is part of a team that is spearheading an effort for SI, structural integration licensing. So that's the big thing, the big topic of this Zoom meeting. So without further ado, Christine, if you can just give us a little introduction into who you are, what you do, and what you're doing. Christine is an SI practitioner, and she comes from the Tom Myers School of Wizardry. So thank you, Christine. Good to see you. So please, if you can just kind of give us a little introduction into yourself, that'd be great.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad to see everyone and participating in this. So a little bit about myself. As Marty said, I'm an SI practitioner, anatomy trained, Tom Myers work, and I'm also, I started off as a massage therapist, and kind of it led me down the road into SI. So I have the dual. I carry dual training. So one of the things I started off here in San Francisco, where there was a lot of movement against human trafficking, and there was in 2015 the state gave all the cities back the power to regulate massage therapy. Some cities did great, they got registry just to get everybody figured out. Other people or other cities decided to take it and run with it with this huge movement against anti-human trafficking, which I totally support. But what they were doing was they were doing it through the massage ordinances. So, and that became very restrictive. Here in San Francisco, it was kind of scary. Like I tried to, I went for my licensing. I'm sorry, for my permit, and that's what they required. And they required CAMTC, which I have, because that's what we're regulated here in California. But I couldn't get. I still paid my $1,700. I had to do fire, building, health inspection,
Right.
zoning referral, and I couldn't get it because of the zoning referral, even though I was in a medical building doing medical work. And it was really frustrating. The health department came knocking on my door. I had to move a couple times, and it really made me feel like I was doing something wrong. So I went to Sacramento, and I spoke at that time for CAMTC, and I spoke here. There was a raid here in San Francisco. About 200 practitioners got cease and desist letters, including, I think, Marty, you got one of those, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You too, Denise, yeah. And so I didn't think that was fair. So having that cease and desist letter, I went to the health, the commissioners, and I a couple of us went, and we spoke out against it because it was both massage therapists and SI practitioners alike. And so they did a moratorium, and we're working currently with the Office of Small Business and the supervisors here. Supervisor, let's see,
Ronan?
Ronan, yes, Ronan, thank you, Hillary Ronan, to rewrite the massage ordinance to encompass wherever healthcare is. And so that's great. And so I've also, that's a really great win. We're moving forward with that. But also what I figured out was, speaking with the various people, is that because we have only a certification here in California, which is a private entity, not related to the government,
Right.
The government, because of this whole pandemic situation, they didn't really know what we were doing. And so they chose to limit us because they don't know what it is that we do. And I feel personally, and what I was told by, I've been talking with, AMTA, national, various groups, that if we had licensure, which is under the medical board here in California, they would have felt more comfortable for us to go back. There would have been certain safety protocols that they know, that there's a certain standard that they know.
Right.
And CAMTC, they've pushed massage therapy as a personal service, and that makes a big difference because we are on a national level and even on a state level, we're considered medical. So we're medical professionals or under healthcare.
Mhm.
And I know that's what AMTA, ABNP, they are all pushing for licensure, because we have it across. There's only a few strongholds. I think California and New York and a few other places that don't have licensure. And by doing so, there's like standards set. So what I've been doing here in San Francisco is starting to try to educate people about structural integration. Just because I feel, one, we're not actually, here in California, they require the MBLEX, and several schools actually aren't allowed to take the MBLEX because they are not massage schools.
Right.
So that limits us. That limits us from being able to actually get the certification. And even though it's voluntary, they're making it mandatory city by city. And so even though it's voluntary, they're making it mandatory. And that puts us in a double bind, which is very restrictive to our trade. And then we can get these cease and desist letters for really not doing anything wrong. So what I'm trying to do here in San Francisco, I've been talking to the Office of Small Business and educating them about what structural integration is. I've told them about IASI, the International Association for Structural Integration, and how we vet all the different schools, and about the CESI, which is the certification exam for structural integration, and how that's a standard that we hold to people to get board certified. And so they're considering accepting these things. And so I feel like that's the first pathway, the first step in recognizing SI. And then hopefully when we push for, San Francisco is like a pretty powerful city. We're leaders in the industry. And so I feel like if we can do this, then maybe at a state level to start to take a look at what we do. And CAMTC is sunsetting this year, or next year actually, when that means the government's going to take a look and see if this works, if the program works. And I know from various sources that like ABNP and AMTA that many people are going to be pushing to do away with the certification and push for licensure. So when that happens, I want to make sure that structural integration practitioners aren't left by the side, and that we can actually get licensure and recognition for our profession and be regulated in the proper way for what we do. We have that in Nevada, and we have that under the massage board, but we have it as a separate licensure. And in New Hampshire, we also have a completely different licensure, but we have SI licensure there under the medical board. So that's my introduction. And yeah.
That was,
Hi.
yeah, That was great. Thank you, Christine. It seems like we're kind of in this funny place with almost kind of an enigma when it comes to regulations on on the state, local level, but yet we are known to some extent because of certain brands on the consumer level.
Mhm,
So they know of us and they are aware of the work, mainly because of the main brand as Rolfing. Um, but when it comes to regulations, we're kind of this like, oh, I didn't know you were even a thing type of
mhm,
situation, type of entity, right? So it's kind of a big hurdle that we have to overcome. Um, and it seems also, I'd like to get your opinion on this. It seems also that we can't necessarily do it without also working or somehow bringing in massage licensing, bringing in the brethren from massage
mhm.
licensing up as well, right?
Right, correct. Yeah, here in San Francisco, I joined the San Francisco Massage Community Council, which is I haven't been doing this fight on my own here in San Francisco. I have a group of really great practitioners here, massage therapists and structural integrators who have been, actively working together. We help write the protocol for massage therapy to go back. We've been pushing, we got it, then we didn't, then we got it, then we didn't, and right now we're supposed to be meeting with the Office of Workforce and Economic Development sometime this week or next, and the the health department, the health commissioner, the officer. So Tomas Aragon, who is he's an epidemiologist, so he's the
Right,
person we really want to convince,
right,
and so he can understand what it is that we do. And we have to really speak to legislators and the scientists, especially now, to help them understand what it is that we do. So um, it's important that we bring along the massage therapists too, because massage therapy is also very important. It's not what we do, but they are our brethren in
hmm,
touch. And so I really think it's important that we are inclusive of them and not try to be like, oh, we're better than you. We just do something different.
right,
And our training is different from their training. And one of the things that's important is that, we the reason why for us it's important is because, if we're trapped under the massage licensing or massage certification, then we have to take massage training, which is kind of, to be honest, irrelevant to what it is that we do. I mean, in New York, one of our practitioners and colleagues who'd been practicing for like 30 years, got a cease and desist letter and was made to go through 1,000 hours of massage training in order to practice.
right.
And they wouldn't let her. She spent $200,000 on lawsuits. I mean, it's ugly. It's really ugly and really unfair.
Mm.
And actually her teachers, when she went through massage school, some of them have become her clients, which is, they're like, oh, this is really important work that you're doing. It's different. Like, you shouldn't have to have done this. But, unless we start educating, you know, people, I mean, the public, people find us and they go, wow, this is different. And, and we have to start educating legislators and anybody who has skin in the game, whether it be, I think even like police force, because the element of human trafficking, and that's the thing that's happening here in San Francisco, and I think in California, is that the sex workers are also starting to get a lot of traction for decriminalization. So
Right.
on that,
Sounds like they are organizing. Uh, they're organizing pretty well at this point.
they are,
Yeah.
they
Um,
are. Mhm,
yeah. Christine, you mentioned the San Francisco Massage Council that
mhm.
you're working with on the massage side for SF. Could you mention the other organizations that you're working with on the SI side? I know you're on the board of several committees, and for a lot of people who are probably going to be watching this on YouTube later on, they're not aware of all of these other organizations that, like you said, have some type of skin in the game that are
Mhm.
working towards this effort, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of grassroots, but it's also kind of not. There's definite organizations that are working kind of behind the scenes for the most part. But could you mention all of those that you're a member of or you're working with?
Sure. So I am currently, first of all, I'm currently the IASI chair for law and regulations. So I have a great team. Chris is part of that team. Thank you for showing up. Um, he's on the board also. So we have that as far as, we've got that team there, and we're working across the nation. Kansas, Seattle, Washington, all the different places that we're trying to, as things pop up, we're trying to mitigate and move together. But because SI is we're pretty small. I think there's maybe 5,000 of us in the world, so we don't have a lot of clout that in that way. We don't have the
Right.
numbers, you know. So we're also part of the JGRC, and this is the Federation for Somatic and Body Work and Movement Therapy. So they have we have Feldenkrais, we've got Traeger, we've got Polarity Therapy, we've got Asian Bodywork Association, we've got Biodynamic Craniosacral. Um, I'm trying to think who else is in there. At AMTA is regularly on that call with us, national. So, and these are all national organizations. Forgive me if I forget anyone, but those are the ones that I remember as far as part of our group. And so we legislatively work whenever we hear about something, we work together to ask for exemptions. And so before in the past, we had exemptions from a lot of massage therapy law, but because of human trafficking, they are trying to encompass anybody. We're losing our exemptions left and right. And they're like, anybody who touches or takes off some of their clothes, I mean, we keep, the SI practitioners, we keep clothes on,
Right.
but it's still like, it's not completely just street clothes, tank
Right.
tops or shorts. And so it's, and so they're targeting anybody who touches the skin, and that might have a pathway for human traffickers to get into. So
Mm.
we moved legislatively together to help to try and protect our professions.
Right, right. Okay. And not to put you on the spot, but there's also for lack of a better term, the 400-pound gorilla in the room, the Rolf Institute.
Right.
And how they're the big whale that, much bigger than any other SI school. So how are they kind of working with you guys to to move this along, if at all? I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think of Rolf and instructional duration together because
Right.
he's on our team. So Livy Eason is the representative for the Rolf Institute. And so they're
Okay.
also part of JGRC. So we work together, and Libby's actually, she's been doing this work for 17 years. She's carried this torch for a really long time, and she is mentoring me and our whole group. She's basically the glue that holds us together
Right.
and keeps us understanding what's happening, all the nuances. So yeah, we work with the Rolf Institute, and they're big players because they've been established, I think the longest, and they carry the name for Ida Rolf, who
Right.
was whose work this is all based upon, and they're like the original SI. So
Right.
that's yes. So thank you for reminding me. I'm like, oh,
Sure.
forgot.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And Libby, I believe, also mentored Robin Graber,
Yeah.
or guided Robin Graber towards the efforts of SI licensing in the state of Nevada. And they
Mm.
are now, they now have that official SI licensing, and which is fantastic. I'm really happy to see that. California is different than Nevada. California probably has the highest concentration of maybe not just massage therapists, but also SI practitioners in the country. At one point, I knew that we had about the same number of SI practitioners in the San Francisco Bay Area as we had in the whole entire country of Brazil, if not South America. So we have a huge concentration. This was back in 2008. I can only imagine the numbers are a little higher, or maybe skewed more towards California at this point. So California is another kind of whale. And if we can get this to happen in the state of California, I think this would be a huge accomplishment for for the industry. Um, I don't. That wasn't a question. I think I was just kind of ranting a little bit. um, but you mentioned early on that if we had the licensing, we might be working right now. I might have a client on this table instead of this laptop on the table talking to y'all, right?
That's right.
So, but aside from that, there are other benefits of licensing, as well, right? I can think of, not just the recognition, you know, being recognized more fully in the healthcare field, but possibly also business benefits, right? For an SI practitioner, maybe further recognition can also lead to further increase in business, I would assume.
Yeah, that is definitely an area where it can help. I mean, once as we start to as we start to educate people and people learn more about it. I mean, SI and Rolfing. Rolfing, everybody knows Rolfing.
Right.
And SI, we need to like raise awareness around that. But what sometimes happens is that, well, for licensure, at least for SI, it's title protection. There are a lot of it, and so what it does, it protects the public, both practitioners and the public, because there are people who practitioners who go out and take a workshop on structural integration, and then they say that they do SI without fully knowing. SI is a pretty extensive training. It's at least 500 hours,
Right.
at 700 actually, I think, the minimum. And so it's so I've heard about people getting really hurt from that, and so it helps to differentiate. People understand what it is that we do. Like, you can go for massage for one thing, and then for us, it's a whole different ballgame. Like figuring out the structure. A lot of people think that rolfing is just going super hard. SI is
Right.
just about going super hard with the tissue and mashing things up, and people get really injured because they don't bring the structural balance aspect to it. And so I do think that people do seek us out. People
Mhm.
understand what this is. People who already know us, and then they find us through other avenues. And so it can be a benefit, definitely, because the kind of work that we do is very specific, and can be really helpful, especially in conjunction with other modalities. And I think we have a really special and unique, um, I don't know, system
Mhm.
of helping people. Like, people have stuff in their neck, but it could be coming from their calf.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if there's anything out there that, I mean, there's acupuncture, of course, which there's a lot of overlap, but our system is pretty special. And I think as people learn about it, and I know a lot of people in sports, a lot of athletes, they know about SI and rolfing. They're the ones
Mhm.
that they're like, oh, it really helps me, recover, and keeps me at the top of my game. And so, a lot of the athletic world knows about us. And so as that starts to spread, I think that's going to be really helpful as a profession. So, and
Right.
and we can, because of our extensive training and because of our knowledge, we can charge more. I
Right.
feel like we should be able to charge more, and we do. Somewhere along the lines of physical therapy, we are very, you know, we can help people very similarly.
Right.
If,
Right.
you know,
Um, I forgot to mention in the beginning. Thank you, Christine. I forgot to mention in the beginning. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. You just
With all the efforts that's going on here, I understand there's going to be some sort of change coming with regard to health services and massage therapy being sort of drawn, not ISI, but it's just general massage therapy being reclassified or somehow being able to work under the health services category. Do you have any knowledge about that?
great
yeah,
question.
yeah, that's a great question, Enrico. That is. I mean, we are considered a Division two. As massage therapy is considered a Division two healing arts, but the issue is that under taxes and the NAICS code, that's how they classify industries. There are two different categories for massage, and that's why there's so much confusion. They still have massage parlors under personal services, and then there's massage therapy, which is under healthcare. And so that's why we're getting tossed around, because they're going by that, and they see a massage parlor. So you see that word pop up so much. And so they're AMTA, ABNP, everybody's trying to push us towards healthcare, because that's what that's what massage therapy is. Massage, it is healthcare, and SI is healthcare, and it's health services. What we do is helpful, and so there is a push for that. We're trying there. I know AMTA is working really hard to change that. I've been talking with them, and we're looking into see what we could do for us as well, for SI as well, and trying to figure out how to change those codes and get us into a category, because it would be helpful, especially if we want to integrate into healthcare and through the insurance system, because some here in California, they actually, because of that confusion, I think that's my personal opinion, they actually took massage therapy out of being covered by insurance, and that kind of that was a way for me to do some work before, and that kind of killed a lot of my work, because the idea is for us to be able to be accessible for everyone, more accessible, the more we can help. So so there is a push towards healthcare to be under health services, because that's what's happening in San Francisco. We're trying to get, wherever healthcare is, health services are, that massage therapy can be.
You said that there's two categories: personal services, and then what they're trying to create a healthcare category. So would that group us together then with chiropractors and other authorized medical providers? Would that put us in with the same group, or we still have an individual classification?
We would be under there. I mean, that's
Okay.
We would be
okay. And then the current climate is such that the massage therapist working as an independent versus working as an employee, evidently that's an important feature too. And so what I noticed is, at least for right now, massage therapy establishment permits are really hard to find any locations, land use addresses where they're actually approved right off the gate. There's like a few. However, if you look at, say, a chiropractor, for instance, and you look at the map, they got a sprinkling of authorizations throughout the city, in all neighborhoods. So when we shift to that sort of health services category, would that also apply to us, that we would now have more access to apply to and work, legally?
Yes. So that is what we're trying to. We've been working with the Office of Small Business, and that's what we've been trying to do, is trying to get anywhere that healthcare is allowed, that we are allowed, that massage therapy is allowed. So that will give us more space. It's not going to be everywhere, but it is going to give us more space for us to practice. So does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you, sir. It's funny to me, we get so kind of into it that these questions that are super helpful, these are the things that people are asking, that sometimes we, at least I'll speak for myself, kind of forget that these are just huge benefits of licensing. So thank you, Enrico, for bringing those up. And Ryan, you would love to hear your insight.
I think it's awesome that this is happening in California. I'm in Oregon, and so I am under an LMT license, but I was able to use the certification exam instead of the MBLEX to get that license. So I'm hoping something like that can happen in California and Washington, to kind of get the West Coast here all lined up. And so I'm the current chair of the certification board for structural integration. So if anybody has any questions, you can talk to me or email me. There's a lot of connections, and it's taken me a couple years to understand everything. So hopefully I can shorten everybody's learning curve and give you some of the issues. Um, IASI used to say that they had schools. They called IASI schools. That was confusing because only state governments have the authority to say what's a school, a licensed school. And so we've moved to saying IASI recognized programs because
Right.
our private certification programs. And I would love to see more programs become schools, right? So the Rolf Institute is a school in the state of Colorado, right? And so there's a couple programs in Utah that are now becoming schools, right? Like the Guild and Structure are working to get licensed by the state of Utah. I'm hoping that happens in Washington because once you're licensed as a school, it's much more likely that your hours would be accepted by state boards. And once you have that, and then they also accept the certification exam, then you have a clear, direct pipeline to be a structural integrator rather than kind of going through this massage pipeline. So that's kind of the aspiration. There is no SI accreditation body. There are own right. The Rolf Institute is under CompTA. That's a massage therapy accreditation, and so that's another long-term project to have programs pitch in some money, which they're not doing right now. It's just a free validation, but we're working on that too, right? So we can all contribute so that we can slowly build, hopefully eventually have an SI accreditation council, right? Because if you look at Oregon, the state board says your hours have to be from an accredited school. So there's issues that play into I guess vetting and validating the education that people are getting. So I just want to touch on that there is a distinction now between a certification program and a state validated school, and I think that's important. So we're working on improving all of that stuff. But also, as far as the certification exam, we've worked hard to make it more available. It's now available at all Pearson testing centers. But really, the certification board is focused on making the CESI legitimate and widely available so that people in states can then take that information and advocate to their state board for acceptance of the certification exam. So there's a lot of stuff kind of happening all at once, but yeah, it really depends on local people being motivated and sort of seizing the moment like they did in Nevada. That all came about because of a similar issue with I guess massage parlor sex trafficking issues. They said, okay, we need to license, I think it was reflexology, and then that created the door to, well, if you're going to license them, then we also want to have a separate license. So very similar, which I kind of view as sort of setting definitions and boundaries, because we've kind of been in this vague no bound, and so we get like massage therapy, okay, sure, but if local practitioners really take the reins and advocate for themselves to be defined in the best way, the way that's best for them, then I think we're going to have some really good outcomes. So those are just my thoughts and communicating some context and what's going on.
What I'm hearing is that accreditation might help us to become more legitimate, but it's something separate from licensure. And so I'm not totally clear on how those pieces are working together or how they're different. Do you know anything about that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think so. I try to understand it. Is that it depends on what the state board accepts as valid education for licensure,
Okay.
right? So if you go to Washington, the Washington State Board just says you have to be approved by us, the Washington State Board, in order for those hours to count. Whereas in Oregon, they say, okay, you either have to be approved by the state, it's like the secondary education board of secondary education, or you can if you got your hours from an accredited school. So like you can have like accreditation bodies just provide standards that other people can rely on. So it really depends on the state board what they want to count for licensure. And so there is no official SI accreditation even available. And so it's inevitably, if you want to be accredited, you have to do massage therapy accreditation at this point.
But the BCSI is becoming more helpful.
Yeah. So if you take the certification exam for structural integration, then you are board certified. So you can be a board certified structural integrator, and that's a certification, right? It's just a private group, and so you can go to the state board and say, please, this is how we standardize and evaluate, right, within our profession. So please accept that. Like I think in New Hampshire, when you renew, you have to show that you are a current board certified structural integrator. In Nevada, I believe it's just have to show for initial licensure that you passed the test at one point in time in the past. So that's why where I'm hoping to, and I'll link this document to everybody, of basically saying this is what CBSI thinks is the best way to do things, right? Like if you're going to say you should pass the certification exam, you should say that you need to have passed it within the past like 2 years, right? Because the test changes over time. So don't make it so that they just passed it 20 years ago, and that's good for like things like that. But yeah, we're hoping to increase the value of board certification, that it becomes more of a credential that opens gates for people.
Thank you, Ryan. I absolutely appreciate that. Kind of piggybacking on what Ryan just said, question for anybody here who's working towards this effort, Chris or Christine, what can we do as SI practitioners here in California, or even in other states? What can we do to help the process? How can we help you? How can we support you? How can we help the process move along?
Right now, I'm just trying to gather people from all across California to join us, and I think we started a Google Groups, but I'm working on a website so people can jump on that website. But I'd love to have everybody to kind of gather in one place. So we've got a Google Groups started, so maybe that will be the one part. But what we can start doing is start getting, start reaching into our the people that we know, our clients, and start getting how would I say? First of all, start getting letters from them. I think that's a one start, like the first step, getting people who support us to write for us to the different municipalities, to get recognition in the eyes of the government. Like, oh, what is this? Like, oh, hey, we are, this is who we are. Show up start attending meetings. Start attending. Whether if you have here we have an anti-human trafficking coalition. I've attended there. Sometimes I go to the health commission too, getting and start being active and listening to what's happening in your city. And so we can see where we lie. People don't know about us, and start educating legislators about how we are. When I went to the health commission, I spoke for massage therapists and SI. I'm like, on a federal level, we are something separate. We are somatic arts practitioners, but we're regulated in massage, and start letting them understand and starting to educate them about who we are and where we stand, and even on a national level. And then I'd like to start gathering groups together and start have them reach out to me, and so we can start gathering a larger group, and because we're going to need to show up when the CAMTC sunsets, So we're gonna need as many people to either write in, to comment, to show up eventually when this happens to Sacramento. Yeah, just start educating people about what it is that we do. I mean, a lot of people still like, oh, massage. I'm like, well, massage is one thing, and that's one area, but we're structural integration. Um, and I'd like to start holding more meetings so we can kind of. I want to hear what's happening in other cities. Keep an ear in the ground, and then and let's share kind of like what's happening in each city because every city's different. I mean, that's really what happened in 2015. It went city instead of statewide, and so each place is different. So I'd like to start understanding what your city requires and get involved that way. So that hopefully that helps.
I do have a question.
Go for it, Caroline.
So I am wondering, I am I'm one of Marty's students, and I'm certified under the MASI program that he runs. And haven't gotten into these larger groups. It's interesting when we were all sort of prepping in the beginning, Christine was like, there are just people that are sort of just out there. Like there's not like a large community for structural integration practitioners. So I wasn't actually as aware of, the CESI and like all of these. I've written them all down, like BCSI, CBSI. Like I don't know what any of these mean. So there's definitely research that I'm going to be doing afterward to sort of fully wrap my head around these. So my real question is like, is it valuable, and how valuable is it for us? I guess if we're going to be pushing eventually to say we have something like the CESI, like it seems like it makes sense for me to pursue taking that. So the more numbers we have of people who have gone through this certification process under SI specifically, the more valid that is as we present it. Does that make sense? What I'm saying, like I guess it wasn't something I'd ever considered before, but I'm now considering on a different way to try to help validate whatever we push for in the end.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope that the sort of rising tide, right, raises all boats. Right now that you've got, now that we have our own website and we have it in Pearson testing centers, we're hoping that we're sending promotional materials to the training program, and we're saying you have to be an IASI recognized program in order for your graduates to be eligible to take the certification exam. So then that's an incentive for all programs to stay in the IASI recognized group. So then we're sending more people through, and there's more money available for CBSI to work with, and to incorporate as a separate nonprofit, hopefully next year. So the more connection and sort of, I guess, money flow through the SI system in contrast to the massage.
Right. Also, something I wanted to add.
Yeah.
Is join IASI. The more membership
Therapy,
we have,
Oh.
there we go. Sorry. The more membership that we have also for IASI, the more, again, just the same thing what Ryan was saying, is the more that we have capital to work with. We can hire a lobbyist. We can do those things. Right now everything's volunteer work. I'm volunteering, Chris is volunteering, Ryan's volunteering. We're volunteering our time to do this, and we don't have any capital. We're just going. I'm going to be paying for this website, so I'm hoping to this website, hopefully people can like donate money so it can keep it going. I'm paying out of my pocket because it's important to me. And so joining what IASI, taking the CDSI, those things are going to be really helpful. The more of us do it, the more power we have, the more credibility we have, the stronger we become to make this a movement rather than just, as you said, Caroline, you brought up that great point, being out there and just kind of like not knowing anything. The more members we have, the tighter group that we are, and the more we can move as a group. So, so great question. Yeah.
Same point. The more people we have taking the certification exam for structural integration and saying I am board certified, right? Board certified has cultural capital. People understand that, right? That's a very common thing in the medical field, and so we have that advantage. But the more people who do this, the more money flow we have out in our own pipeline rather than like a massage therapy pipeline.
It seems like we all individually have resources, and if we could combine our resources together, it seems like we also have a lot more that we don't know that we have. And I'm just wondering if anybody's looked at. I mean, this is if there was ever a time for us to come together as a group, besides the legislative piece, which is, you know, I'm used to getting results in a day, in an hour, in a short period of time, or maybe over a small, 2-3 month period. We're used to that, and that fits our way of thinking and doing business. What you're talking about is going to take time. That's more like, being a loan broker or mortgage broker, where they know this is going to take a process, this is going to take time, but eventually it'll happen. So I don't know how many of us are patient like this and can survive that. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to put out a call to the group to see what would be the interest in a group collaboration, uh, not only for what you're doing, but also to help each other. I mean, how do we expand on the caring nature of what we do, the empathy that we bring to our clients that we could be bringing to each other. I'd like a response to that.
I can say one thing. I can answer that with one word: sharing. So, we're trying to put out this content and the information. And here through Morales Method, we've had several videos out and we put them up on YouTube. If other body workers can share the information with their colleagues and their peers, that would be fantastic. And then people would hear the message, and then hopefully we could channel our people, our efforts, our energy into certain cause. And the more people we have, like Ryan and Christine have said, and Chris have said, then the more energy we have, the more power to shift things. So this is going to call upon something that a lot of body workers need to kind of pull out from their innermost, and that's the power of sharing, the power of social media, the power of content sharing that we need to employ. So the information is out there, but we need to share it. We need to start to connect people. So yeah, I hear you. Sometimes a group is 4 or 5 people, and you think, where is everyone else? Where are the other 65,000 massage therapists in the state of California? They're out there, but we need to connect. So this is part of what we're doing here, and I will keep nagging my people and my email list to share this information with everyone else. So, but yeah, it's very important, Enrico. I absolutely agree with you.
Well, as this starts to evolve, I mean, I'm creating that space. I'm creating the website, and I'd like to have like weekly meetings. I mean, if we can start getting people, together in one place, collecting emails, and just getting networking, and then we can get everyone in one place and have weekly meetings or at least monthly meetings. That would be great.
So you mentioned, Christine, that you're starting the website, and this should be an effort for all of us to get together and to help pay for the website hosting and pay for some of the work that's going to need to be done for that website. And like you said, a lot of people are volunteering, but maybe this could be our next push, our next virtual bake sale, so to speak, to pay for this, so that you don't have to go at it alone, and pay out of pocket. So that could be another thing. Is just, as I was thinking, kind of marrying what you're doing and marrying what Enrico was talking about.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll
go
post
ahead.
it on when it comes up. I'll keep it posted on when it comes up. It's not up yet, but CALSIPA, KALSIPA. I think that was what we we came up with, right, Marty?
So that's so it's going to happen. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that's going to happen.